It Was Just an Accident is an Iranian film directed by Jafar Panahi. This is a movie that has some Oscar contention, maybe for Best Director or International, so I wanted to check it out. But also, I do enjoy Iranian cinema, especially the works of Asghar Farhadi, and I've been trying to explore more films that aren't done by him. But this is about a family whose car breaks down near a machine shop, so the employees there help them fix the car. However, Vahid, he is an employee there who hears the gait and the walking of the family man. The man has an artificial leg, and he recognizes this man's walk and his voice. It's the man who viciously brutalized him for 5 years because he's an inspector. So he hides and he follows the family after their car's fixed, finds out who he is, and then hits him with his car and kidnaps him. So drives him out to the desert to bury him alive, to get some closure. However, the man casts some doubt on whether he really is Iqbal the Peg Leg, the man who brutalized him many years ago. So this movie is very similar in plot to others from even Iranian films like The Salesman, or stuff like Death and the Maiden, or the Oxbow Incident, where it's up to a vigilante, group or an individual who wants to get some justice, but they're not sure, and if they do it wrong, they're equally, guilty. So Vahid is he's kind of hapless. He's kind of like, he's supposed to be delivering something to his sister, so he immediately contacts an old buddy of his from the prison, and Salar gives him a reference to Shiva. She's a photographer who's trying to do some wedding photos. However, he shows up and crashes the place and bumps into Ali and Goli, the newlyweds. She was actually in the prison too, brutalized by this man. So they all get together and ditch the photos, and the newlywed couple, well, Goli more so, wants to see if it's really him. They can't tell, so they have to find the last member who can identify him, Hamid, a hot-headed man who was abused by Iqbal the Peg Leg, and then they ends up turning from like a thriller into like a drama, and now it's like a lot more interesting than the other sort of vigilante stories because it's now a group, so it's kind of like a group decision, right? Hamid is like hot-headed, he wants to kill him right there, and then there's the Ali, he's like a neutral guy, but his parents, his father, like made some shady money, and he doesn't know about Goli's past. And then Shiva's trying to also be non-violent, and then all of them are sort of gathered trying to figure out what to do, and there's some mishaps, but eventually it ends up with them having to deal with the man at the end. It ends up a very harrowing, well-acted sequence that really hits home and hits hard. Even if you're not familiar with Iran's brutal regime, the acting from the end, some of the characters really do able to convey the pain that they went through and how their lives got ruined. And the movie does have a lot of sweeping themes about vigilantism, and if you start using the methods that they used, you become just as equally guilty. So the movie is pretty cerebral in that sense, but it's never boring, and it's well acted and harrowing. Sometimes the camera work can be a little bit boring, static shots, sort of just dialogue based, and eventually some of the characters, they kind of go around in the same circles with their viewpoint, but overall this is a really strong thriller drama film. It is familiar, but also fresh with the whole group vigilante angle, and definitely a memorable climax and ending for sure. So I give It Was Just an Accident a 7.5 out of 10.